Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful and oh-so-historic neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We hope that you subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Google, on Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. We want to know right now, are you ready for a kerfuffle? Our guest today is Ed Ehlers, and he is here to celebrate his great new kidlet, Dear Oh Dear, a Max and Tucker adventure. Before Ed joins us, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Vooks. That's V-O-O-K-S, Vooks, Vooks.com. Vooks combines the love, trust, and safety of children's books with the convenience of online streaming for a whole new way to experience stories with a growing library of animated storybooks that both kids and parents will love. By adding movement, sound, and narration to existing books, Vooks brings stories to life, encouraging the love of reading while promoting literacy, imagination, and focus for children 2 to 8 years old. With Vooks, children can learn, laugh, and let their imagination soar, while parents can feel good about letting their little ones enjoy quality, guilt-free screen time. Right now, Vooks is offering a free 1-year subscription to every single teacher and homeschool parent. We also have free resources to go along with some of our latest and most loved titles. To learn more, go to Vooks.com. That's VOOKS.com. And for all of you listening to us in the Chicagoland area, we want to invite you to join us at Kids Expo. That's right, the Reading with Your Kids podcast will be at Kids Expo February 8th and 9th, Schaumburg Convention Center, Schaumburg, Illinois. It's going to be a great time. Be sure to come on over to our totally interactive Reading with Your Kids booth and find out what it's like to be a guest on the podcast. We'll be recording lots of content that we will be using in future episodes of the show. Also, be sure to check out my totally interactive magic show. You may be selected to come and join me on stage. It's all happening February 8th and 9th, Schaumburg Convention Center, Schaumburg, Illinois. It's Kids Expo. Joining us on the line right now from the beautiful state of Virginia. He is returning to the show to celebrate his brand new book, Dear Oh Dear, a Max and Tucker adventure. Please welcome back our friend Ed Ehlers. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jed. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Welcome back. So happy to have you back and so happy to find out about this brand new book in your Max and Tucker adventure series. Tell us all about it, please.
Sure. This is the second book in the Max and Tucker Adventure series. Like their first book, which was Lily and Lucy, this book is also a true story. It is the true story of how Max and Tucker helped rescue a deer that was stranded on Pope's Head Creek. Now, Pope's Head Creek is a small little stream that runs through our town here in Clifton, Virginia, and it outlets into Bull Run Regional Park. We go down at Pope's Head Creek at least 3-4 times a month. We spend a lot of time in the woods there. Max loves to chase sticks when I throw them in the water. Well, we had a lot of heavy rains the week leading up to this adventure, and as we're on the creek, Max is chasing his sticks and Tucker's sniffling around. Well, Tucker just stops and he stands stock still and he's staring across the creek. All of a sudden, Max drops his stick and he runs over and he stands next to Tucker. Well, just about that time, I heard the noise that attracted their attention. It was a snorting, snuffling sort of a sound. And this was from a deer on the other side of the creek. I'm sure you've seen creeks where the water has eroded the dirt from around the tree roots.
Sure.
And the roots look like a tangled ball of yarn. Well, this deer had been washed down the creek and washed up onto these tree roots, and her back leg was trapped between two roots, and she couldn't free herself.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Tucker found her first, and then Max, he took off upstream to a shallow spot, and he crossed over, and I followed him around. We got onto the area where the deer was at, and I wasn't exactly sure how to approach this deer because any animal, any wild animal, you've got to be cautious, especially if they're trapped. Even though deer are generally, we think of them as gentle, they have very sharp hooves and they can do some damage. Oh. So Max, he actually runs around the back side of the tree, showing me that there was a path leading behind the deer. So I could approach her from the side, where her leg was caught, so that she couldn't flail at me from that direction. Mm-hmm. So I was able to lift her up, free her leg, and set her on some firm ground. And Max and Tucker, they sat, we were probably maybe 25 feet from where I'd set her down. And Max and Tucker just sat there, watched her. Tucker whimpered a little bit. He always does that. He's very vocal and expressive. And he was whimpering a little, but they sat there for about 20 to 30 minutes until she was strong enough to go on her way back into the woods. She got up on shaky legs and then headed off, presumably back to her family. And then Max, he went straight back down to the river to catch some more sticks, and Tucker found a mud puddle to rest in.
Just another day, no hero stuff here. We do this all the time.
Well, so far, two true stories. We happened to be in the right place at the right time, and we were fortunate enough to be able to help this animal that was in need. So I'm very thankful that we were where we were at the time we were there.
Yeah, that's wonderful, wonderful. And a lot of the stuff you mentioned, that it's great information. You know, if a child reads Max and Tucker, the Max and Tucker Adventures, and only comes away with the memory that, I need to be really careful if I'm approaching an animal that's hurt or trapped or wild. In fact, maybe I should probably get an adult to help me do this. That's a great lesson for a kid to come away from a book with.
It certainly is, because we want to make sure that we do help our fellow creatures, but we've got to do it in a way that's not going to injure them more or injure us. Mm-hmm. And so there's actually a number of organizations out there that do just that, and they help the animals and they educate people that want to help. Mm-hmm. And so I formed a partnership with Wildlife Rescue League, which is a local organization here that helps rescue, nurture, and return the animals to their habitat. And we donate proceeds from the sale of the book to the Wildlife Rescue League.
That's wonderful. And in your description, when you reached out to be on the show, you talked about, Max and Tucker, rescuing a deer that was near death. That's not hyperbole at all. I mean, this deer with their legs stuck in the tree roots, that animal would have been absolutely helpless if coyote or some other kind of predator came along.
She would not have survived had we not been there to help. Mm-hmm. Her leg was trapped in such a way she couldn't pull it out, because the way she was leaning forward, it was putting so much pressure and tension on that leg between the roots. The only way to get it out was to straighten the leg straight up and down and pull it, directly out. So we were fortunate enough to be in the right place.
Yeah. Now, Max and Tucker, they're interesting. They're Australian Shepherd dogs, and that's a really interesting breed. We almost gave a forever home to an Australian Shepherd. It didn't quite work out, but tell us a little bit about that breed and what makes them so unique.
Well, before I get into that, I do want to mention that there are real-life pictures in the back of Dear Oh Dear, so you can see just how that deer was trapped.
Oh, wow.
And then you can see her going on her way back into the woods from those real-life pictures. But the Australian Shepherd breed is a wonderful breed. I'm going to start with a disclosure up front. If you don't like dog hair on your clothes or on your couch or in your food, they're probably not the right breed for you because it's hair everywhere all the time. In fact, we only remark on it when there isn't hair in our dinner. But super smart, loving, loyal. And I have a question for you. It's a trick question. So where are Australian Shepherds from?
Well, I mean, the obvious answer is Australia. However, since you gave me that introduction, I don't know, maybe New Zealand?
So, no, they are actually from the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France. And in the 1700s or so, they were transported to Australia to work as herding cattle or herding sheepdogs. And from Australia, they then came to the United States. And so somebody in their infinite wisdom said, oh, they came from Australia. They must be Australian Shepherds, when in fact they are from the Pyrenees.
And they're very similar to Border Collies. We had a Border Collie for 13 years, and you're absolutely right. When we talk about dogs being smart, and a lot of people say, oh, my dog is so smart, my dog is so smart. This is a different kind of smart. It's hard to explain unless you actually live with a Border Collie or an Australian Shepherd. Just the level of intelligence. It's mind blowing.
So, a quick little story. Tucker is a little smaller than Max, but he likes to think he's the big dog. And so they're pretty good about sharing food and sleeping together, but Tucker likes to steal Max's bones or chewies. Well, I don't usually let that happen. If Tucker comes over to steal Max's bone, I correct Tucker, and, cause Max is just so gentle. He's like, sure, take it, whatever. So Tucker, he knows that if he acts in a certain way, that we will go get him some fresh water. And so he had been trying to steal Max's bone. Lisa, my wife, and I were correcting him, and so then he makes the gesture, the motion that he wanted some fresh water. So my wife went up to get fresh water for him, and as soon as she got up to get the fresh water, he went over and got the bone from Max. And when she came back with the fresh water, he wanted nothing to do with it. He was content with the bone he stole from Max.
Now, it's obvious that you have a great love for your animals. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the benefits are for a family to give a dog a forever home?
Oh, the benefits are so numerous, and I'll try and confine it to just a few here. But one of I think the top benefits and it's so hard to pick, which one's the top one, but, I'll try here. Just to be able to care for something other than yourself, to provide a home, provide shelter, provide food for something that is completely and totally dependent on you. I mean, what a sense of responsibility, what a sense of caring for something other than yourself as an individual.
I've mentioned this on the show before. I have a little routine in my educational magic show where I hand out beads to kids and I ask them what they're thankful for. And we use the beads and we create a big, beautiful necklace, and it's a lot of fun. And many, many times, and I was really surprised when we created this routine. My son helped me, and he was in middle school at the time, and he said, "Pop, you can't do this with middle school kids. You never know what they're going to say they're thankful for. You could be very embarrassed." Well, as it turns out, 99.9% of the kids that we've asked, and we've been doing this routine now for over a decade, have said something like, "I'm thankful for my family, I'm thankful for my friends, my home, my teachers, and very often my pets." And one of the things that I say every time a kid says, "I'm thankful for my dog, my cat, my guinea pig, I think someone was thankful for a tortoise." It's, we talk about that idea of having a pet is a great way to learn about loving something other than ourselves. And that's a really big lesson for kids because, kids come into the world just being able to think of themselves.
Yeah, you have to see beyond your own personal needs. Your animal needs to be fed or needs to be walked or cleaned up after. And so that's a very big concept that, I'm not going to just sit here and watch TV. I've got a responsibility to take care of, but not just the responsibility, the love and I come home from work and they are so excited to see me, and it is infectious. It just makes you feel good that your pet, no matter what went on in the day for you or them, at that moment, that precise moment in time, they are so over the moon excited to see you. And that you can't help but feel good about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things, we don't talk about this enough, we do encourage kids to read aloud and hopefully to a parent. But if there's a moment when a parent isn't around, a really good exercise for kids is to read aloud to their pets. And I know that Max and Tucker would just sit down and love to have a kid read to them. I'm sure that they would be very, very intent and give they might be lying down while they're giving the attention, but it's a great way for kids to just practice their reading skills. And kids really love reading to others.
They do. In fact, when we were on last time, I don't recall if we had been certified yet, but Max and Tucker are registered therapy dogs, and we go to schools, libraries, assisted living facilities to do story times, to do therapy visits, to do trick shows, and sometimes just to get our bellies rubbed. Well, they get their bellies rubbed, not me. And some of those programs include a story time where we read to the children, or where it's read to a dog event, and it doesn't matter who you're reading to sometimes, as long as you're reading, and you can get a pet or a dog, or cats usually not, but a dog that will just lay there and listen to your every word.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and it's a really great, if you do have, I don't know if I'd bring a dog into my home just to have my child read to them, but if you are a dog family, and I would really encourage you to encourage your kids to pick up that book and read to the dog, because it's great practice for your child. And I think that, it brings the child and the dog closer together, I think.
Yeah, the time spent, especially like a breed like Max and Tucker, the Australian Shepherds, they are people dogs, and just being in the same room together. In fact, I wish we were on video because Max and Tucker are sitting here at my feet right now, just laying out, just relaxing, and it's that proximity to people that they love, and so. The dog gets something out of it, the child gets the reading out of it, and they both get a sense of well-being, caring from each other.
Yeah, some people might be, the idea of therapy dogs or service dogs, it's common. It's part of our culture here in the States and in many countries. We're very familiar with they were called seeing eye dogs when I was growing up, dogs helping visually impaired people, blind people. And there are also dogs who are trained to help people who are deaf and who have other kind of issues. But we hear a lot and therapy dog isn't the word for it, but it's you hear these stories about people bringing their horses onto airplanes because they need their horse to relax them and calm them. Can you talk a little bit about that, because it seems that folks are kind of taking advantage.
So, what you're referring to is ESA, Emotional Support Animal.
Yes.
So, there's a general description of assistance animals. Under assistance animals, you have three main types. One is a service animal, another is a therapy animal, and then the third is an emotional support animal. A service animal, usually a dog, and they are trained, as you said, for people with impaired vision, people with hearing issues, all sorts of issues is not the right word, but
challenges.
All sorts of ways the animal can help a human. And they go through years of training, and they are protected by law. Anywhere a person can go, a registered, certified service animal can go. And it's a one-to-one relationship. You usually will see, please don't pet me, I'm working, type signs on the service animals, because that dog is doing something to help that human and shouldn't be distracted. A therapy dog is certified and registered. They don't necessarily go through specific training, but they have to pass a hands-on test and then 4 observed visitations. After they pass those, then they're registered as therapy dogs, and then they have to go to at least one therapy visit quarter to stay current. Now, Max and Tucker, through regular obedience training, were able to pass the test with no problem and pass their supervised visits with no problem. So they were certified. Gee whiz, it's 2 years now. It was February 2 years ago. Now, the ESA, Emotional Support Animal, there is very little. Let me step back. And so the therapy animal does not enjoy the same legal protection as a service animal.
Right.
They are not a working dog helping a human, so they are not protected by law. They can go into restaurants and libraries and places that regular pets don't normally go if they're invited. And so we've been to a number of different venues thus far. Also, the relationship is a one-to-many, right? So therapy dogs, their whole purpose is to be pet. In fact, Max and Tucker, they have vests that say, "Please pet me, I'm friendly." Now, emotional support animals are also a one-to-one relationship. There's someone that expresses a need for a comfort animal, and it is not limited to dogs. As you said, it could be a horse, it could be a turtle, it could be maybe a pet tarantula. Mm-hmm. As long as the person has expressed a need to a medical doctor, and the medical doctor has prescribed an ESA, this person can have these animals. Now, emotional support animals they do not enjoy the same protection under the law, mainly because they don't have the same training as, say, a service dog does. Mm-hmm. However, in many areas, jurisdictions, as you alluded to on planes, sometimes the corporations just don't want to make the distinction. They don't want to have the kerfuffle, if you will. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says, I need my dog to sit with me on the plane, and here's my doctor's note, and he's an emotional support animal, then they will allow it.
Well, I appreciate that explanation, and I also appreciate the fact that, we're coming up on our 3rd anniversary here at the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We've, way over 600 episodes, and this, I guarantee you, was the first time any guest has used the word kerfuffle.
It is one of my favorite words, actually.
Well, I've had such a great time speaking to you today about Dear, Oh Dear, a Max and Tucker adventure written by our friend Ed Ehlers. Ed, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Jed, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I really, really enjoy your program.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tracy Hecht. She is the author of the Nocturnal book series. Can't wait for you all to meet her. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic children's book. All you need to do is to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button. At the bottom of the page, let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very, very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Ed Ehlers. Be sure to check out Dear, Oh Dear. Also want to thank our friends at Vooks, VOOKS.com. I really do love this service. Check it out. You're going to be amazed. And remember that they are offering a free 1-year subscription to every single teacher and homeschooling parent. Check it all out at Vooks.com. Also want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. Be sure to check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very, very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.